Hey guys, this is TK. In this demonstration, we are going to take a look at a situation where the service provider provisioned a 10 megabits per second Ethernet link to customer, and customer is connecting to service provider's equipment through a straight-through cable using a MDIX capable port. When you connect a DCE equipment to a DCE equipment, basically a switch to switch, you need to have a crossover cable. But because the MDIX capability, that customer is able to make a successful connection to the service provider's equipment using a straight-through cable. And let's take a look at what's going to happen in various speed duplex situations where MDIX is dependent on the speed and duplex configurations on the port. So the service provider is configured for hard-coded speed and duplex, speed 10, duplex full, and the customer is configured with, at this moment, is Autonegotiate, speed auto and duplex auto. So let's take a look at the customer equipment. So now you see, because of this configuration mismatch between the customer and the service provider port, where the customer is configured with auto on both speed and duplex, and the service provider is configured with hard-coded speed and duplex, the final end result is the customer is negotiating for half duplex with the 10 megabits per second speed. And let's take a look at the MDIX status. We can use show interface gigabit transceiver properties, and you can see that the auto MDIX is on administratively, and the operational mode is also on. So the MDIX in operation, and because of that, you can connect the customer equipment to the service provider equipment using a straight-through cable, even though the equipment type is DCE, a switch to switch. Normally you would use a crossover cable. Okay, so what we'll do is that let's send some data and see what's the problem in this scenario where the customer is negotiated for half duplex with 10 megabits per second. Okay, so I'm going to send some data to service provider's equipment, and let's see what's going to happen. Now you notice that the packet drops here, and this is due to the half duplex negotiation between the customer and the service provider. If we take a look, the interface errors, you see that I get late collisions and CRC errors and collisions. So again, this is due to the fact that the interface is negotiated for half duplex, because that the service provider side is configured for hard-coded speed duplex, and the customer side is configured for auto negotiation. Now let's configure customer side is also to comply with the service provider's configuration with hard-coded speed and duplex. Let's see what's going to happen when we do that. So you notice that as soon as I hardcode the speed and the duplex, my interface went down. Let's see why. What was the reason for this? So let's take a look at the transceiver properties of the interface. As soon as I hardcode the speed and duplex, that my MDIX operational mode turned to off. So you see that if you're depending on MDIX using a straight through cable, as soon as you hardcode the speed and duplex between these two DCE devices, between these two switches, that your link is going to go down because the MDIX is dependent on the auto negotiation. So to prove that, if I put the speed and duplex back to auto on the customer side, the link comes up, check the transceiver properties, and the MDIX is on. So in this case, if you want to configure these interfaces properly, you would either configure both ends of the link to be speed and duplex auto, or you would configure it to be hard-coded. But this second configuration will break the MDIX, because as soon as you hard-code the interface to speed and duplex, the MDIX is going to turn off and you won't be able to use a straight-through cable. You should use a crossover cable. So if you have the speed and duplex configured for auto negotiation, we need to request the service provider to configure that side also to be auto negotiate. Let's take a look how that's going to eliminate our problems. Okay, so let's take a look at the customer interface configuration. It's set up for auto, and the service provider is also set up for auto at this point, and it negotiated for 10 megabits per second full duplex. Let me get to the configuration, the interface. It's set up for auto. So at this point, if I send the data, let me clear the counters. And let me send the previous data transaction. And we don't see any errors on the interface. And let me take a look at the error stats, and you see we have a clean interface. So what we saw here was that if the service provider have their speed and duplex hard coded in their port, the client, the customer, needs to have speed and duplex hard coded in customer's equipment, and the customer cannot rely on MDIX, and the proper cable type need to be used between the customer and the service provider. If the service provider configure their interface for auto negotiate, then the customer can use auto negotiate, and the speed and duplex will be negotiated properly, and the customer can rely on MDIX using any type of a cable between the customer and the service provider. Thank you.